So there are so many different causes of anger that these are just some of them. And the second thing that we're going to look at is anger affects your body. When you get angry, your body creates energy. And here's what happens. Adrenaline and other chemicals enter your bloodstream. Your heart pumps faster, your blood flows more quickly, your muscles tense. Everyone gets angry sometimes. So you will find yourself, it's like when you get exasperated, don't you kind of, it's like you're taking a deep breath. And at that moment, your heart's going, because your body's saying fight or flight. You've got adrenaline going in your body. You're just like, And so there's this dynamic that happens within us. It's normal. It's normal for our bodies to act a certain way whenever our minds tell it to, right? It just happens. That's how our bodies react. Handling anger well can help you overcome problems. If there's a situation that you know that you have to fix and there's an obstacle and you know that obstacle does not belong there, that anger is a different kind of anger where you can use it. It gives you energy to be able to overcome the obstacles, to overcome problems. If there's something wrong, it's like, I'm going to do it. I don't care. You just go, right? The second thing is it helps you to reach your goals. We use that in football a lot of times. It's like some of our kids are a little timid because they've played soccer their whole life and they don't know how to tackle them. They don't know how, and it's like we have to toughen them up and we have to use your anger. And we don't tell them, hey, imagine that's someone you hate. We don't go there, but we tell them, build up this intensity. And just like when you get angry, you have that energy. It's the same thing. You just want to build that up, right? And then go after it. And so it helps to reach your goals. Another thing, handling anger well can help you stay healthy. And what they mean by that is there's a proper way to deal with your anger so you can stay healthy. Because if you allow that anger to stay inside and start to work its way in you, then it's not good. That's when things can happen where physiologically and physically you're getting, things are happening that are not good for you, not healthy. And then fourthly, handling anger can help you to feel better about yourself. So there's a different kind of anger. And so we're going to look at the scripture, be angry. What does that mean? And why did God say be angry? Because He wants to help you to overcome your obstacles. He wants to help you to reach your goals. He wants to help you. So He allows you to have this burst of energy and this anger, but this anger is different. It's a righteous anger. And we're going to look at that a little later. On the flip side of that page, too much anger or uncontrolled anger can cause problems. For example, problems in your relationships with family and friends, problems at work, legal and financial troubles, physical and mental health problems. These are just some. So too much anger or uncontrolled anger can cause these things. Poorly handled anger can cause many problems also. One of them is depression. Depression is anger bottled in. It's just turned inward, And so I remember growing up as a kid, I was not allowed to be angry because my anger was pretty violent. And so my dad and my mom would get on my case and they'd say, don't get angry. And I had to eat this emotion. And I started to eat this thing and it started to eat me. And then next thing you know, I had a ton of different emotions inside me that were working its way through me. And I found myself getting more and more depressed. I found myself becoming more and more isolated. I would just kind of hang out in my room. I became a voracious reader. I read every book that the library offered me because I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to deal with people. Yes, I did well in school, but that was my escape. That's how I escaped my pain, right? And so I started finding myself getting more and more downcast. And I remembered one day my dad asked me if I was depressed. And I said, I don't think so. And then, and he says, well, why do you look down? And what do you mean? And he says, when you walk like this, He says, you're only 9 years old. You look like an old man. You're looking down like this. Why do you do that? And I said, I don't know. And he says, well, then straighten up your back and look forward. And that's what I don't want you to do that anymore. And so he was really strong about that. And so I forced myself to stand up and look forward and stand with the back straight, and walk that way. Even though I was in pain inside, even though I was still depressed on the inside, I was now forced to have to put this facade, right? You've got to look like you're strong. You have to look like, the machismo. That's part of the Hispanic machismo. You've got to look like you've got it all together. And so here I had all this pressure as a kid. I had all this stuff going on inside, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I went into my own depression. I didn't know what to do. And so I was just bottling everything up. Another thing that happens is alcohol or other drug problems. You may use alcohol or other drugs to try to dull anger and other strong feelings, or forget about the negative consequences of an angry outburst. But ignoring anger or giving up control can lead to physical health problems, which includes headaches, sleep problems, digestive problems, high blood pressure, heart problems. And it can also lead to poor decision making. Anger can make it hard to think clearly. How many of you guys get there? When you're angry and you're having a conversation with someone and they're making total logical sense, but you are just ticked. I don't care. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm going to drive this thing, and you know what? I'm not going to give in for this one, right? Why? Because we're angry at that moment, and we've got all this stuff inside of us, and we have to continue to work this thing through. And so no matter what happens, and it causes poor decisions, you may have trouble concentrating or may use poor judgment. This can lead to car crashes, injuries, and other problems. That has happened. How many times have I heard, my friends, myself, we get angry, we get in our car, and I had a 1968 Camaro, and it had big fat tires in the back, and it was jacked up, and it's called torsion bar. I think it was sweet. And I had a 72 Malibu, and these two cars were like muscle cars. And so when I'm angry, I turn that thing on and just take off, right? Make a bunch of smoke and stuff like that. That was so cool. I was releasing my anger with those tires screeching and making a big old cloud of smoke behind me. There was a release of anger. And so, but that wasn't healthy because I could have hit somebody, I could have gotten out of control and ran into something or someone, I could have caused other problems. And so that's what happens many times. It's you make poor decisions when you're angry this way. You may have problems with relationships. If you can't control your anger, you may end up insulting, criticizing, or threatening those close to you. They may respond with anger or resentment. Getting angry may also keep you from telling your loved ones how you really feel. And those are one of the things that, like for me, I couldn't share how I really felt because I was so shut down in my other things. Then you may have problems at work. If you blow up on the job, coworkers, supervisors, customers may develop a negative impression of you. Your career may suffer as a result. I had my first job out of high school. I was working at a car lot, and I was cleaning these cars. And I had this boss, right? Nice guy. He loved my work. Well, he went on vacation. And so his boss took over the whole department. And so I was on my break, and I'm sitting down, and I'm just eating. I'm talking to my friends. I'm just eating. And then he says, "Hey, you." And I hated when someone called me, "Hey, you." My name's Enrique. I've got a name. Don't "hey, you" me, right? So I was already ticked because he said, "Hey, you." And I looked up. I go, "Yeah." And he says, "This is the customer. I want you to wash this car. Get it ready for the lot. Get it ready so he can leave the lot." And I said, "No problem. My break is ending in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, I will get up and I'll take care of this gentleman." He said, "Did you hear what I said?" As soon as he said that, I was like, and I said, "Yes, you told me to wash the client's car. I'm on a break. 5 minutes, I will clean the car." And then he says, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "No." Huh?
She said, "My ex-boss."
You've all had moments like that, right? So this guy says, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "No." And I'm not going to tell you his name. He says, "Well, my name is so-and-so, so-and-so. I am the head of this whole department. I am your boss's boss." And I just looked at him and I said, I went like this. I was celebrating with him. I was saying, "Whoopee," right? I got fired, right? I got fired. I didn't care because I wasn't going to work for this guy anyways. I knew that he and I were not going to work out, right? And so I was walking down this sidewalk area, and I saw him, and he was writing my pink slip where you get fired, and there's a actual pink slip. And so he's filling it out, and I happened to glance over. It says, works too slow. And I was like, I was the fastest worker of all the guys that worked on the lot. And it's like, that is a total lie. And so I thought, and most people would wash like 3 cars. I usually wash 5, right? And it's because I took pride in my work, and I washed 5. And I thought, I'm gonna wash 7. And I pounded 7 cars out that day. And then at the end of the day, he says, here's your pink slip. And I was like, what's that for? And he says, read it. And I read it, and it says, works too slow. And I said, I just pounded 7 cars. I said, the fastest anyone else does is 3. He goes, okay. So give me back the paper, and he crosses out, works too fast, poor quality. Get out of here. So I'm leaving the lot, and I'm like, I'm gonna wait for him right here. And I know where his car is. It's right next to me, and I'm gonna wait until he gets out of work, and I'm gonna beat the snot out of this old man. I'm just gonna wreck him. And then I was like, and then I'm gonna go to jail. And I don't wanna go to jail. So I better walk away. And I did. I walked away. And I ended up getting a better job, within a few days. And I went back there to go visit, and he happened to be there. And he says, so how's it going? And he had that little smile. And I said, actually, it's going really well. I have a job, I'm working in construction, and it pays this much. It pays me 3 times what I was making here. And I could tell he was like, he wasn't hoping for that kind of answer. But he says, well, good. He says, so it was a good thing I fired you then. And I was like, I think I'm still gonna pound this guy, right? And so I had to walk away from that, because I had to balance, am I gonna go to jail for this guy? Is he worth going to jail for? No. And so I walked away from that, but I was still seething. And so I took it out on other things, and I went and I escaped into my little drug world, and that's how I was able to kind of like deal with my stuff, and I talked about it and whatever. And I just found it very interesting that it changes you and how you deal with people at work or at home or whatever you do. This anger can really take you and take you away from who you want to be. Another thing that anger does is that you have this low self-image, because you start to feel guilty about, why am I so angry? What's wrong with me? Why do I keep losing it? And so we start to, I'll never, or I'm always going to be, and we start to judge ourselves, and we start to think that we just don't have it. We're just going to be whoever we are. And so it starts to affect us, right? The results of uncontrolled anger may include verbal attacks or physical assaults. You may lose control and attack others physically or verbally. For example, you may throw or break things, yell, insult, or threaten, slap, shove, kick, or hit. And so those are the things that I grew up in, In my culture, when I came home and I said, so-and-so hit me, my dad would say, then go hit him back. Because if he hits you and you hit him back, he'll never hit you again. You hit him harder than how he hit you. And that's what I was taught. And so I grew up in that kind of household. It's like you just, someone hits you, you hit him back, And I'll never forget my neighbor. He was 3 years older than I was, and he hit me. And I was like, I can't hit this guy and beat him up because he's bigger than me. So I pulled off my belt, and I had a big buckle, and I was swinging at him. And he's like, hey, relax, what's going on? I go, don't you ever hit me. I said, I'll hurt you with this thing. And so it's like, because that's what I grew up with. You have to take care of yourself. And so I grew up with this, I have to take care of me. And so what happens? You start to emotionally shut down your emotions, because I didn't want to do that. I don't want to be angry all the time. So I started shutting down my emotions. Well, what you do is you start shutting down all your other emotions too. So pretty soon you don't even have happy emotions. You're just like, ugh, and you just kind of stay in this place. And I found myself getting harder and harder. And I was angry at how life treated me. And so I remember at 12 years old, I decided I'm not going to cry anymore. I'm done crying. And I've shared this story in the past. And I stopped crying for years. Didn't cry. I didn't even know how to cry. And when my grandma passed away, I couldn't cry. There was nothing in me.